Coming up next on Mehlville Today,
we're taking an in-depth look into the world of e-cigarettes.
The Valeroy family joins us to talk about their wrestling history.
And it's time for a pizza eating contest. We're seeing which team can eat their way through a pizza the fastest.
So stick around for the show.
Mehlville Today starts now.
Welcome to Mehlville Today. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm John. Today we start off with a look at how some students were allowed to use e-cigarettes during school.
Valdana and Anita have the story.
Dr. Swanger sent out an email with an attachment to a report that the Surgeon General had recently sent out. And it was just talking about e-cigarette use among youth and young adults. So basically what they looked at first is they looked at the numbers. The numbers are staggering. And that just caught my interest, and so I started talking to the students about it, and they said, you know, can we look into this?
Schulte asked us how often kids would do it in class, and we said it was pretty often in the classroom, and she wanted to see how nasty they were. And
yes, so the students that were 18 or older brought in devices of friends, possibly a personal device that they owned, and then we grew the samples in the incubator and we checked them. They actually grew over the weekend, so we checked them when we got back, and 4 of the 6 devices tested actually did have bacterial growth. And so I wanted them to see what effects are possibly going to harm them. And I think what I wanted them to see from that is that there are a lot of effects that we don't know about yet, and then there are effects that we do know, like the effects of nicotine on the developing brain. But I also wanted them to see something they could actually see with their eyes, and that was the bacterial growth that we saw on the agar plates.
We asked a couple of students if the experiment's results will persuade people to stop juuling.
I'd say nobody cares how much bacteria you're inhaling, because if you start in the first place, knowing how many germs isn't going to make you stop. So.
But I also do have this feeling that they will, just because there is bacteria growth, and that it will scare them a little, knowing that what they're inhaling will affect their life and will affect their lungs. That's why I sold it, because it started to be bad for my health, and I didn't want to spend that much money on it.
And an advice to underclassmen, these products really are expensive, even for 18-year-olds, even adults as well. And I feel like kids are spending a lot of money like that they don't have, or they're using their parents' money, and it's really bad to be forming an addiction with all your money.
Next, almost every class is giving you a homework assignment, but do you really need it?
Admir and John have the story on people's emotions on the need for homework.
Every high school student knows the struggles of worrying about and doing homework for hours on end. Is it beneficial? Is it detrimental? Here's what some teachers and students had to say on the matter.
On average, it takes me about I'd say an hour to 2 hours to do homework. It just depends what homework. Usually on A days it's longer. On B days I'd never have homework. So.
For me it's usually around 2 or 3 hours a night.
Homework usually takes me around 2 to 3 hours after school every day.
Because it's excessive. Some classes take 30 minutes, and some classes the homework can take up an hour and a half. I'm in class for an hour and a half, I'm doing homework for an hour and a half, I don't need that much.
For the classes I'm taking, no, I think it's the right amount, but for some classes I think they assign unnecessary things.
Yeah, I have way too much homework. Some days when I'm doing 3 to 4 hours of homework, I don't have time to go to the gym, or hang out with my friends, or do stuff like that.
I think it does help, especially with math and science stuff, though. You have to keep doing it to get it down.
Yeah, I think it's it just reinforces the learning. It's how I memorize and study for tests. Actually doing the homework, I think it usually helps.
I can learn something in 30 minutes. If a packet takes me an hour and a half, at that point, just excessive.
We also got the opinions of some teachers.
As a math teacher, I feel like homework is important, because I feel like for math specifically, you need to practice to be able to get better.
So instead of giving homework, my students will have a homework quiz mostly every day. So when they come in, they'll answer roughly between 5 and 10 questions of what we covered the material before, the day before. I think sometimes with homework you can find the answers other places and you don't truly understand what you're doing, you're just copying off of something, but them having to do an actual homework quiz, there seems to be more of they study on their own and they're actually understanding the content better.
So as far as cheating goes for homework is just practice. So if they're going to cheat on homework, that's kind of on them because it's not going to help them in the long run.
With photographer Admir Music, this is John Groves from Mehlville Today.
Most people know Carly Valeroy, but do you know her family? Wilson, Dustin, and Sama show us a story on how wrestling has been a tradition in their family.
The Valeroy family has been wrestling for decades, and 2 of them wrestle here at Mehlville. We talked to the family and coaches about their history.
Before we started at Mehlville, I was a little concerned. I'd met the Mehlville coach, Josh Bauer, before we even went there, and I was certainly happy with him. And he seemed very willing and accepting to have girls on the team. The person who I know of who wrestled in my family was my grandfather, Blackie. And this would have been, he grew up in Iowa, and he probably started wrestling at about 1920.
I've been wrestling since as long as I can remember. I was in diapers on the mats, but competing-wise, I started when I was 7 and in 2nd grade. I hope to continue my wrestling career in college. Not sure where I'm going yet, but I'm excited to take that on.
Well, since she first started as a freshman, she showed a lot of potential then, but she's really honed her skills over the past 4 years, and now she's a very competitive wrestler. There have been quite a few that have gone to other schools, and I've known of them, but Carly and Brody are the only 2 I've coached.
In wrestling, well, I've been surrounded by wrestling just about as long as I can walk, and I started in kindergarten when I was 5 years old. I look up to my dad and his brothers as well. They all have a really big passion for the sport, and they've kind of driven me to what I am today in the sport.
Even before I had children, I'd always hoped they would wrestle, and by preparing them, I suppose I did, only by introducing them to the sport. I was always coaching the sport. Sport's for everybody. Girls wrestling's becoming very big in the United States and all over the world.
Next, Timo and Ayla take us to the pool for a look at the girls' swim team.
I think the hardest stroke is probably butterfly, and then my favorite would have to be breaststroke. I think I'm most excited for actually having a chance at going to state this year.
Well, the hardest thing about swimming, you think running is hard. Try breathing underwater. It's 10 times harder. They are exhausted when they're done. We have drills, we have warm-ups, we have the main set, and then we have a cool-down session as well. What am I most excited about this season? The girls actually have a chance to make it to state under the consideration time. So if we make it into state, that would be wonderful.
Here at Mehlville, we like to have fun.
So Shane and Kaylee orchestrated a pizza eating contest to see which team could eat their way through a pizza the fastest.
3 teams competed to see who could eat their pizza the fastest, but they were in for a surprise with these sweet toppings.
Yes, God, you're killing them. What is that? We ran out of pepperoni, you guys. What? So we used gummy worms and Skittles.
First team to finish the pizza wins. 1, 2, 3, go.
Oh!
Christian, bro, come on, Christian.
We had 2 underclassmen, Mason Brewer and Lauren Vandevert, versus 2 seniors, Christian Ulmer and Megan McDermott, versus 2 teachers, Mr. Orff and Miss Bach. Many students came to watch this event.
I got anything in my beard?
One of the contestants was struggling and may have felt a little defeated, but the battle still continued. After 20 minutes, the teachers pulled out to a big lead against the other teams. At this time, Miss Bach really felt the pizza. After a lot of hard work and dedication, Mr. Orff and Miss Bach won the contest. Congratulations to them, and thank you to all the competitors.
That pizza with all the candy loaded on top, so it might be a second before I'm actually able to eat pizza again.
I'm fine with pizza. I just really don't want pizza for a while, or that thick a pizza for a long time.
Congratulations to Mr. Orff and Miss Bach on winning the pizza eating contest.
That concludes this segment of Mehlville Today. For more coverage, visit us at mehlvillemedia.com and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat for more details.
We're on a 47-hour break, but we'd love to see you back for our next broadcast on December 8th.
But before you go, we're going to leave you with our newest segment.
It's the first installment of what we like to call, Dude, That's Crazy.
My name's Alex, and this is Dude, That's Crazy. This is the football full court shot. This is the MHS Frisbee Flinger. This is called the MHS Flying Saucer. This is the MHS Crossbar Challenge. This is the super far away 3-point ping pong shot. Dude, that's crazy.
I call this one the pedestrian.
Dude, that's crazy. This is the MHS backwards